All right, good evening, everyone. Darren Adair with American Hospitality Consulting. Welcome to Great Minds Sessions. Wow, 16. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. I am very honored to have with us my coach and mentor and all-around amazing individual, Duane Plapp. Duane is an author. He's a nationally recognized speaker. You may have seen him on MPTV's Fire with Dad and so many other things. He's written so many great books and helped so many people in a variety of different spaces with sales and leadership and everything else. And Duane, I'm just really, really appreciative and thank you to you for being here this evening and sharing some of your knowledge with us.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Excellent. So let's just kind of start off, Duane. Why don't you just give a little bit of a background? I shared a few things, but tell us a little bit about yourself, what you brought, what got you into the business that you're in and the types of things that you do and how you support hospitality.
I guess it's my second, what they call your second city or second whatever. I started out in the insurance business back in 72, owned an insurance agency, and for about 20 years sold it. And I was going to retire at 45 or 46, something like that. And found out that retirement's not fun when you're so young because you kind of sit home and get bored. And so my sons and we're talking in Thanksgiving one year, and he says, "Dad, you got to do something." And I said, "Well, what do you suggest?" So we got into the retail boat and RV business, and then I did that till 2008. And in 08, we were considered one of the largest bass boat dealers in the country and one of the largest fishing warehouses for tackle and what have you. And when the pandemic hit, or when the market crashed, I decided it wasn't worth it. I was 62 years old. Figured I didn't need the hassle anymore. And so I said, we're out of Dodge. So I sold the building, sold the inventory, and just closed the doors. Well, again, I'm retired at 62, and now again I'm bored. After about 3 months of playing golf and fishing every day, I finally said, I'm just getting tiring. I never thought playing golf and fishing would be boring, but I tell you what, after you do it for 3 months and nothing. But one of my buddies calls me and says, "Hey, you're the king of sales. How about training my sales guys?" Well, I started training the sales guys, and all of a sudden, everybody found out that I wasn't retired anymore, or wasn't retired as much, and my phone started ringing. So this is my 14th or 15th year I've been doing coaching. And so I've been coaching and training sales guys how to sell. And I'm loving it.
Perfect. Awesome. And you also work with the America's Best Restaurants team right now.
Right. Matt hired me to train. I think there's almost 12 people now that I'm training. And I also have probably another 20 clients that I do as well. And awesome. The clients come in every walk of life, from attorneys to title people to construction companies to chiropractors, you name it. I got a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Perfect. And that's why I wanted to have you on tonight, Duane, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit, when we're talking to restaurants and, when I'm going out there and talking to restaurants and trying to help them focus on some of their areas of opportunity, you talk about being able to sell without selling.
Well, that's the name of my program, Sales Without Selling. And the reason for that is this. One of the things I have found is most people in the franchise business and people that are brand new entrepreneurs is that they hate selling. Well, quite honestly, I hate selling, although I like the sales. Right. So the thing is, okay, the people today in today's market are more interested in the buying. And so my philosophy is this: if I can create a relationship with you where you want to buy from me, now closing the deal is a whole lot easier than trying to sell you something. Because today I think the market is changed. It's no longer the Fuller Brush type guy coming to your door. And the day of the used car salesman, okay, those guys are getting, and no one wants to have a guy in your face. And so my whole philosophy is that if I can teach you how to sell without having to sell, then that makes it a lot easier, because now you're just creating what I call relationships. And people like to buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if they can create an environment where they're buying rather than you're selling, I tell you what, your closing ratio goes major league up.
So how would you approach the hospitality, talking to servers and managers in a restaurant to get them on the path to being able to do this? Because we're always trying to increase our average check and grow our business. And, we've talked about a few different things, we're adding desserts and that kind of thing, but how would you help them to figure out how to properly do that to get people to close more people? Because that's really what they're doing. As much as they don't understand that they're selling, how would you work with them on that?
Well, one of us, I would say probably the first thing would be pay attention. What I mean by that is this: every single person at every single restaurant is wearing certain kinds of clothes, or wearing certain types of hats, or they dressed a certain way, and you can make comments about that. For instance, okay, I'm a big Cub fan, Chicago Cub fan. I'm sitting at Panera one day, okay,
Right.
and the guy sitting there reading the sports section, and I noticed he's in the sports section. This is in Cincinnati now. And he's looking at the sports section. He's reading the Cub article. Look, hey, you're a Cub fan? Yeah, how'd you know? I can tell you're reading the paper and in the Cub section. Hello. So the same token, if you're a waitress or a waiter and you see people during certain things, you can create the conversation. The key to upselling people and getting them involved is when you go to a restaurant and the waiter is just loves you to death, okay, and helps you out and creates that relation and talks to you, and it's it's a riot. All of a sudden, guess what? You can't wait to get back there. Probably one of the best examples is Art at Barleycorns. Barleycorns is a local restaurant, and I had their insurance when his brother owned the store, owned the business, and I think he's done, he's retired to Florida. But Art was the general manager of one of the Barleycorns. Well, Art we'd come in and sit down with the family, and Art would come over and start talking to us. And he knew I was a Bears fan, and he was a Cincinnati Bengals fan. So he'd come over, he'd start talking to us. Well, it got to the point where every Friday night we were there because I couldn't wait to talk to Art. I mean, Art always waited on him. Same thing. We go to a Mexican restaurant now. My wife and I do. We live in a small little town, and there's only about 3 restaurants. And there's a Mexican restaurant, and a little shorty waits on us. And as soon as we walk in the door, shorty says, "They're mine, they're mine." And I always get a pitcher of Miller Lite and 2 mugs for me and the wife. And he brings out the pitcher. And ironically enough, the first time he did this, he had 2 mugs that were half full of beer. So I get a pitcher of beer and 2 mugs half full. Well, guess what? You think he's got any trouble upselling me? Hell no. He's always saying, "Duane, you got to try this. Duane, you ought to try that." Guess what? My bill in a Mexican restaurant, $75, $80. Okay, and everybody else is probably 35. But the thing is, he gets me so excited. I'm talking to him, and so now I go in there. Shorty's waiting for me. He's already before I can get to my table. Here's my pitcher of beer and 2 half mugs full of beer. Cha-ching, baby. And that's the name of the game. It's all about creating that relationship. And if you walk by people and you know what they're wearing and different things, you go, "Hey, by the way, I really love your tie. I love your hat." Okay, tell you what. Oh my God, I love that tie. I mean, next thing you know, you got a conversation going. People like to be complimented. So if you create a conversation, create a nice upbeat thing, now all of a sudden you got no trouble upselling. You got no trouble creating a VIP program. You got no trouble doing anything. You got the guy basically in your hand. I call it putting the honey in your hand, having the bees come to the honey. It's all about buying.
No, I love
right
that
environment, people will buy.
Yeah. And you're making me think. Last night we went out for dinner. It was my birthday yesterday. We went out for dinner. And
happy birthday, by the way, again.
Thank you.
For the 40,000th time.
But the server that we had, she did that. I mean, she complimented my wife on her hat because my wife was always wearing sequins and there's always blinged out. So she complimented her on that. She made fun of me all night long, but in a way that she obviously understood that she could interact that way with me. And they have they do this big birthday thing. And there's a few other birthdays in there and they're singing happy birthday to somebody else. And she walks by using this little look and mouths, "You're next." Right. And just had fun with us at the table. And it was because of that. I mean, she got a big tip. I remember her name, and it made the night even that much more special. So when you can do that kind of thing, and it makes me think back to my hotel days where my bell staff would, they'd recognize your face, but they wouldn't necessarily remember your name. But they would, even if they hadn't seen you before, they're looking at your bag for a bag tag. and saying, Mr. Smith, welcome, good to see you. Or if they had the the list of people who were coming in, they had their returns that, hey, welcome back, good to see you again. Even if they didn't really remember the guy, they were doing that kind of stuff because it made that person feel welcome. It made that person feel special. And it, like you said, it creates that relationship.
Well, my wife and I, when we go to a steakhouse, we always sit at the bars now, right at the bar, because the professionals are usually behind the bar, and if the person's really good, okay, it's amazing. We were at a Longhorn, and we went there for several years, and he finally, the gentleman was waiting in the bar, finally went in business and so opened his own business. It was a training business, but he was our bartender. He was a bartender there for several years. I'll never forget. We go into the first time. We both ordered New York strips. I mean, New York strips, and we ordered this shrimp casserole type thing for appetizer. It was called something shrimp, and Southwestern shrimp. And it had a little zing to it. And we both got, Miller Lights, and we're sitting there, and we had the big mug. Well, we go back about, I guess 3-4 weeks later. Come into place. He looks at us. He says, Miller Lite. Before we could sit down, we had 2 mugs of Miller Lite sitting on the bar stool. He says, by the way, your appetizer's already ordered. I'm going, whoa. Okay, guess what? I mean, from that point, and then to top it all off, after we've been in it for a few times, we got talking, and he found out what I did for a living. And I was coaching people how to, training them how to stuff. There's a State Farm guy sitting like three spots down from me one night. He says, by the way, I need to introduce you to the State Farm guy. I think he could use your help. So the next thing I know, I'm talking to the State Farm guy. I get a new client, all because he's out there helping me out. I mean, you think that guy's gonna have any trouble upselling me? Hell no. I'm there, baby.
Why is that such, I mean, and that's great, and something that I've talked about a fair bit, but why do you think we've kind of lost touch with this creating the relationship with our guests? And, because that word of mouth where he's finding you a client, your teams, your regular guests can be doing that for you when they're out in the marketplace. But it seems we've forgotten the importance of some of that stuff. How do we get back to that?
I think they follow the leader. I call it following the leader.
Right.
If the entrepreneur who's the general manager or the person who owns the franchise or owns the business, if he's not out there doing it, you're not going to go out there do it. And so if you find most restaurants, for instance, Barleycorns, okay, Kenny Heil, who owned it, okay, when he was there, he was out talking to everybody. Okay, well,
Right.
Guess what? If he's out talking to everybody, now his waitresses and waiters are doing the same thing.
Right.
On the other hand, if you got a store and you go in the kitchen, and you don't come back out, and you never really shake the hands and touch I call it touch the tables. All right, guess what? Neither is my waitresses. They don't think it's, because if I don't think it's important, they don't think it's important.
Right.
What they don't understand is 90% of them are on tips. And if you do a phenomenal job on tips, I mean, on waiting on creating that relationship, your tips are going to be a lot higher. Probably one of the better examples of myself. I had a paper route when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. I had 300 customers.
Wow.
And we got paid about $7 a week. You know what my pay was each week? I averaged over $75 a week. No one could figure out how come I averaged $75 a week. Well, guess what? When it rained, your paper was in your door. It was always on your porch. Okay. And I would, if you were up, I'd hand your paper to you. It was all about customer service. And my people used to give me, I have 300 people. I probably average about 75 cents to $1 per person on the tip per week. And I used to crack me up. In Christmas, I made $300.
Wow.
And my dad's going, how are you making this kind of money? You're almost making more money than me, and you got a paper route. And I'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and roll my papers, okay? And I'd go out and I had them on my bicycle and I said, oh, but guess what? If you wanted your paper on the porch, it was on your porch. If you wanted it in your door, it was in your door. I even had 3 or 4 guys in those days. They had the mailboxes where they little hangy things, the curly cues up. Okay, I'd even put your paper right in the curly cue. People loved it. I had one guy. He was a bartender, and every time I drive by at 4, about 5 in the morning, okay, in my bicycle, he'd be standing out on the porch and he'd have a beer in his hand. Says, Sonny, come on here and have a beer with me. Have a beer with me. I'm not allowed to drink. I'm sorry. But it was, again, it's just a matter of, creating that relationship. And I've done the same thing in all my businesses. When I had my insurance agency, I sold it in 91 and retired, got about 2.5 times more for it than most of my buddies got for it. The reason why, everybody who bought insurance from me was a member of the Plapp family, period. You were part of the family. And they don't leave you. When you create a relationship and you create a lot of relationship and you have, the know, like, and trust. I'm big on the know, like, and trust. The more relationship you have, people don't want to leave you. And in the insurance business, that's a tough business to keep somebody, because the price goes up on the car insurance or homeowner's insurance. The guy's gone. My guys would call me, hey, Duane, help me out. What can I do? Well, I had a bunch of companies, so I moved them to a different company. My buddies can never figure out, how come you keep all your customers? I said, I can't even steal one from you, Plapp. Why? Because I tell you what, I took care of my customers, a lot of service. Made them I called everybody was my BFF, best friend forever, baby.
I love it. And there's some people that just seem to naturally get that, I think, and it's probably more than just a natural. It's probably just, their upbringing. They've seen it from their parents or other things that they've experienced. But, one of the things that I struggle with is I don't see enough of this starting to be trained early on for the hospitality industry. The education side of things, schools are closing. And we have a lot of people who come into this industry who do it because they think they're going to make a lot of money, and they don't have that.
And they don't get trained properly.
Yeah.
And a perfect example, banks are probably the best in America at training people. I mean, every single person in that bank is trained. They spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks training you before you even hit the road. They train you till you're blue in the face. And tell you what, it shows. The guys that are really good bankers, they're so hospitable, it's unreal. They want you to come in and spend your money and put your money in your bank and use your checking account and savings account and all 9 yards. That's the name of the game. And you'd be surprised. If you watch most branch managers, they got a certain number of calls they got to make each week to each person's place and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Now, I know you've had to deal with a lot of different things, and I know you've had some opportunities where there has been a situation where you've had to handle somebody who maybe didn't feel they were being serviced properly. How do you train people to, deal with that disgruntled or upset person who you're trying to get them back, to win them over again?
Well, what you got to do is you got to show some passion. I had that situation happen. When we got in the boat business, I bought another guy's dealership as well. We had started from scratch and we bought another guy's dealership. And hang on here, I gotta pay my lawn guy. Hang on here.
You gonna pay me?
All right, he's paid up.
All right.
My wife's handling the lawn guy tonight.
There you go.
I want to be paid.
Well, you just got paid.
This is not my money. That's for him.
I know. You look at your wallet.
Here's my salary.
Your salary. Okay, now perfect example. Here's what happened. Okay, we had a guy. We had our boat business, and we had when I bought the other guy's dealership and bought it into my dealership, I brought in his parts guy, and his parts guy was an old hillbilly type guy. That was everything was very masculine. So one lady walks in and she's got head grease from head to toe, and she's obviously a gearhead. Well, in his eyes, there's no such thing as a woman gearhead. So she walks in, she's telling him what she wants and this kind of thing, and he gives her some really smart ass comment like, "How in the hell would you know?" or something like that. Well, that set her off. She went nuts. Okay, starts screaming at him, and all of a sudden, I could hear the door. She slammed the door. It couldn't be slammed. Okay. And I was in my office and the whole building shook. I'm going, what the hell has happened? It's like I'm flying out of my office and I look around and I'm going, what in the world's going on? That girl, and Richard's, he's pointing at her, he's screaming at her. So I get out of my chair. I run towards her car. I get to her right before her car. And I said, ma'am, what seems to be the problem? That son of a bitch, yeah, she starts going on and on. I said, man, I am really sorry about that. Is there something we can do to help you out? She says, well, I came here to get this part. I said, tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to give you half off this part today. And I'll tell you what, for the next 30 days, I'm giving you 20% off everything you buy. And I'm going to make Richard get on his knee and apologize to you. She says, you do that? I said, yeah. She says, I got to see this. I said, okay, come on back in. Come back in. I said, Richard, on your knee, apologize to the lady, or you're gone. Which one you want? Bigger than bananas. Richard got on his knee and apologized. Okay. Ironically enough, okay, she was in there almost every day for the next 30 days. She spent a fortune in there.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And top it all off, her and Richard became good buddies. Richard finally realized that some lady finally actually knew something about parts, and he was blown away. And so she became a loyal customer for years, all because of the fact that we went overboard to help her and solve her problem. The key is it's not the problem, it's the problem. It's the solution.
Right.
Okay. If you solve the problem, it actually creates a relationship. I guess a story, I heard a guy named Joe Gandolfo. He was the world's greatest insurance agent, and he had this story. I go into Hills Brothers Shoes, and that's if that's back in the 70s, was an old Hills Brothers shoe store. And I go in to buy a pair of shoes. And I'm got the guy, he's fixing my feet, and he's putting the shoes on, and he's got the little thing he's going on the shoes. And so I buy a pair of shoes. I get home. I pull the shoes out, and with all the moving shoes back and forth, I end up with 2 left shoes. I go, oh my God. So now I got to drive back to Hills Brothers Shoes and get the right shoes. So I get in the door. Okay. And I tell the guy that I got 2 left shoes. He's, oh man, I am really sorry. And he gets talking to me, and he ends up giving me the right shoe. And he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 50% off another pair of shoes in the store. So the guy buys the other pair of shoes. Now he's got 2 pairs of shoes. In the meantime, he starts talking to the guy and goes back to him several times after that. Had the guy not had the problem, he never would have created a relationship with that person. So to me, sometimes having some small problems that you can solve actually helps you create that relationship, which makes a lasting customer. Just like that lady in our store who bought the part. She became a customer forever. When I sold it in 08, she still was a customer when I closed the doors. The name of the game is not so much the problem, is that how you solve the problem.
Yeah, we used to call that make it right. It's, it's communicating to your team that it's okay for them to do that kind of stuff. Let them know that you want them to make the guest happy, and that it's, they don't have to come and find the manager or that kind of thing. And we've had this conversation before on some of the stuff at AVR.
I was in a restaurant about a month ago, and just the opposite happened. The food, it took them an hour and a half to get the food to us, and the food was cold, and then it wasn't even done right. So I made a comment to the waitress, and she brings out the manager, and the manager comes down and says, "What's the problem?" He says, "So what?" and walked away. You think I'm going there to eat again? So what? Hello, cha-ching. The waitress looked at me, she goes, she didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So what? We're busy. Hello.
That sounds like it's a problem above the manager too.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's just Hoover's training that manager. That guy, they need to be doing some more training, and the manager needs to have a little long talking to. Say, hey, buddy, the customer's always right. Go out of your way.
Yeah, I've had a similar situation where the manager came over and was very rude, and the server actually said, "You know what, I'm going to do this for you anyways, because screw him." And she gave us money off our bill, and because I was chicken wings, and the wings I got were raw, like they weren't even cooked all the way through. So, anyways, Angeli, I know you took yourself off mute. Did you have anything you wanted to comment or share? I wasn't sure if you had something to say.
No, I'm just hanging out, actually.
All right.
I just figured
Cool.
there's only 4 of us, so yeah, no, I'm just listening.
Okay, perfect. Well, listen, Duane, I guess I'll ask you one more question, and then we can call it an evening. And again, thank you so much for being here this evening and sharing your time with us. But if there was one big piece of insight or intuition or advice that you could leave us with, that you think that people really need to focus on to help them move forward in all this, what would that be?
I think there's 3 things. One is, I'm a big believer of this. If you're going to be in sales, you got to do the research. If you walk into a customer store or place, you got to know who they are. You got to do some research. And today it's a piece of cake. I mean, you got Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you got all these social media platforms, you got the websites, you got, if you Google the guy's name or the lady's name or whomever, you can find out all kinds of information, which now allows me a complete opportunity to create some relationship real fast. The other number two thing is this: look at your opportunities. I used to tell my sales guys, if you just sold half of your opportunities, you'd be so rich you couldn't handle it. People have opportunities every single day continuously, and they never jump on them. Okay. And I can give you stories that were stories of my opportunities, ones that I did do and ones I didn't do. So in one opportunity, it cost me $1 million. I didn't do it, like an idiot. Okay. Cost me $1 million in 24 hours I'd have made just because I was an idiot, not paying attention. So make sure you do your, and the third one is this: persistency and follow-up. The key to selling, not every, most people are not going to buy your first visit. Okay. Most people, they're oblivious to whatever's going on many times, or they got some crazy, or 45,000 salesmen are calling them. The key, the person that gets the sale is the person that follows up persistently and is persistent. I don't know how many sales I've made over the years just because I was there and persistent and didn't leave Dodge and say, okay, the guy said no, and I'm out of here. Everybody says no. What you got to do is get them to say yes, and it's persistency. Those three things. Okay. Again, research, creating those, taking advantage of opportunities that hit you in the face, and the third thing is follow up and be persistent.
I love it. And as you're talking about all that, there's so many things that we can do in the restaurants to deal with that. I mean, talking to your team members, letting them taste the food. Talk to them about what the specials are. One of the things that I have a hard time with down here being Canadian is that the drinking age is 21. You have an 18-year-old server and they're trying to sell you a beer and they have no idea what it tastes like. So that frustrates me, but that's a whole different conversation.
Well, they probably know what it tastes like.
They just can't admit it because I might be an undercover guy.
Well, the thing is, though, in Wisconsin, when I was a kid, I lived in Illinois and we lived about 10 minutes from the border. And we'd all go to Wisconsin and we'd hang out at a place called Frank and Mike's, because at 18, you could drink in Wisconsin. So we would all drive to Wisconsin and drink at Frank and Mike's.
Perfect. Well, you know what, Duane, I appreciate your time this evening. And Teresa and Angelique, thank you for being here this evening and joining us. I look forward to continuing to have these conversations, Duane. You've been a great resource, and I enjoy hearing your stories and getting your insights on different things. And it's definitely helped me in my sales ability. And I look forward to continuing that. And, this will be shared out on all of the channels like I usually do. Our next Great Mind sessions will be in early August. And I think I might have to ask somebody that Duane, quite well, who is disappointed that he hasn't been asked to be on the show yet, but you and Doug have been asked to be on the show. So I'll see if I can get him to come on next time. So guys, appreciate your time this evening. Have a great evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month on the next Great Mind sessions. Have a great night.
Have a nice evening. Enjoy talking to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.